Hey, what is up everybody, Blades for here, and today for you guys another video of Persona 5X. Besides today's video guys, I'm going to be actually going over the best teams to build for the global launch of P5X itself. Now this is going to be of course targeted to more of my global players here, so I'm going to at least try to have a bunch more videos like this very soon, in which I'll make sure that global is definitely in the title so you guys know exactly what's going on. Now some of these are going to be updated guides here. I would much prefer you guys to look at these very well, because this is more of the finalized thing, seeing we only have at least 5 more days till the game does drop. So hopefully you guys really do appreciate this here, and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It really does help me out quite a lot. Without further ado, let's get straight into the video. So as many of you guys do know, the 5-star, or at least majority of the actual 5 stars in this game, are pretty darn useful. And with global coming in, we're gonna have a couple actual characters that we can pick from, or at least try to summon for. But there's going to be a few things that you guys need to know, especially when it comes down to just progressing in this game, and that's going to be mainly the teams. So I have a couple good teams that you guys very well can actually run, depending on who at least you want to start and how everything does really go. So we're going to break this down into at least 3 teams and then get into more of the placeholder standpoints. So the first team I would actually like to go ahead and discuss here is going to be the Fire team. This one, in my at least defense, I would like to say is one of the better teams here, seeing that quite literally DOT does everything here, especially at the earlier stages, whether it's either Palace 2 all the way to Palace 4. Really, Palace 2 and 1 are pretty easy to beat as long as you have a cheap way of getting through it. Now fire is one of those cheap ways. In fact, you can go ahead and do a ton of different fire damage just with the fire ticks that you have immediately, and it regards with either on getting those stacks off, usually using LaFell, who gets those stacks off, or my man Kiyoshi here, who also gets stacks off as well. All 3 of them work pretty darn good together, but this is mainly a good team that you can just utilize to kind of cheat majority of the content. There will be times, of course, you will need to swap in certain characters, so surely do keep that in mind, because this game is very element revolved. So let's say you run into something that is null to fire. If you ever do need to, you can very well just go ahead and swap out at least the main DPS and try to keep these other 2 in here, mainly because LaFell himself is really good at sustainability, seeing he does heal, and then Kiyoshi at the end of the day is a little bit of a debuffer, so he can very well help you out a little bit here. But for the main DPS, you can go ahead and swap out if you do need to swap accordingly, and it could really come in handy. Now if you are struggling to live as well, let's say the team's actually doing fine, you can swap this out, seeing there's 2 different navigators you will have on the global launch. Depending on it, at least if you don't need survivability and you're just really going for damage, Okeon is definitely going to be your best navigator for this. But on the off counts that you do need to live a little bit longer and you want to at least prioritize more of survivability and just do the long game of DOT damage, Puppet's going to be your favorite to go for. This character is going to be in pretty much all the teams that we're discussing today as well, so surely do keep that in mind. Seeing of course, if you just don't have that sustainability, she's really good to go for. But the Fire team is definitely one of the few teams I would highly recommend, especially if you're going to at least try to progress even further inside of the global launch. Now the second best team here that I would like to go ahead and go over is going to be the Global Wind team here. Now this Wind team is going to be comprising with Morgana more as your centerpiece instead of our girl On here. And that's mainly because not everyone really wants to run On. I could understand that, and really I would much so prefer a little bit of sustainability when it does come down to survival. Now the good thing about this is of course you have yourself a healer, you have yourself a built-in revive, seeing that by utilizing Morgana, his ultimate actually does revive a ally of you if you do have one that dies. Another good part about this is you're ended up getting Florette here, and as long as you have him paired with our man Leon, you're able to deal some decent damage. Florette himself is probably the best 4-star, especially early game when it comes down to DPS, and I think you guys would definitely much want to use this guy quite a lot. He excels in a lot of things, especially with the crit rate aspects upon him, as well as he does a ton of different damage here that can deal way more damage than I thought would come from a 4-star. Even today, he actually can stand up with some of the 5 stars that have came out, and it's really interesting to see if you put a lot of time into this character, you can definitely deal a lot of damage with it. With Leon also being by his side, you're able to go ahead and get up your crit damage accordingly once of course you do get Leon on duped up here, where he really becomes a really good buffer. Alongside of this here, Leon, if you do need be, you are getting some nice attack buffs from him as well, so it really just makes this team hyper offensive. Plus, since of course we have winded versions of everyone, using both of course our man Seiji and Morgana together, be able to get those windeds off, get a more of course a crit heal depending on if Morgana wants to, as well as get the winded status effect off in general for at least some of the enemies, meaning you can decrease their defense as well. So you kind of have a built-in debuffer, at least whenever you do proc that winded status. So surely do keep that in mind. Pretty darn good of a team here. Just the only thing I do have to say is these two, especially when it comes down to Leon and then our man Seiji, are fairly squishy. So you do want to make sure you got yourself a good old healer, which Morgana is going to try and take care of that. On the off chance that this is not working and you do need a little bit extra sustainability, once again, our favorite type navigator comes back into play, which is Puppet, where she gives us different shields and different sustainability projects. So in all honesty, if the offensive way isn't fully working, you can go ahead and use Puppet to at least give you some sustainability. Same goes with this team here. There are going to be some fights that of course do require different elements. Switch out usually your DPS, because usually your two buffers, or at least your buffer and your actual sustainer, you want to go ahead and keep them in no matter what, because they're going to be helping out whoever is the main DPS in the front. So sure you do keep that in mind. Now we went over at least the second team here. I would like to go ahead and go over the third team, which is morely going to be out there for my Joker fan. This team is going to be of course comprised of Joker, Rin here, and of course our man Leon. Now this team is, as you can see, more of a 5-star reliant team of course. If you don't have both Rin and Joker, I will have at least a substitute for Rin, so you guys will actually be able to kind of see how it does work. For the most part, it's all going to be relying on our man Joker for the most part of damage here, where he does a decent bit of curse damage. This is going to be the first 5-star you guys can actually get your hands on, so investing into his team could be very much so worth it. Much like of course the other elements here, there are going to be certain fights where he cannot take care of, but I think in the first palace and the second palace, or at least half of the second palace, he should be looking pretty darn good. So I think you guys will be fine in that aspect. So investing to a team like this will be very, very helpful. But let's just say there is a point where you just don't have Rin. You have Joker and Leon, but you need another character who can kind of fit at least in that spot. But one thing about this here is there's no other real curse characters, and element coordination really doesn't matter too much in this game. So the good part about this is you can actually swap out whoever you want. This character can also go into a sustainability character as well. So if you want it, let's say you got unlucky or either got lucky by your standards and you went for Morgana or got Morgana out of it as well. Seeing that at least on Skull or Morgana will be one of your picks, this can be a optimal team. At the end of the day, you're getting yourself a healer, you have your DPS, and you have your supporter. This is actually going to help you out quite a lot, seeing of course at the end of the day, you're really just feeling him as much damage as possible. As long as you're able to of course help out with Morgana here, you got yourself a built-in revive, you got yourself winded statuses which can help our man Joker deal more damage, and of course you got a nice heal on your team. So this can very well be viable. Though if you did want to swap out, let's say you don't have Morgana as well, and all you have left is 4 stars at least, there are a few other options. Once again, sustainability is going to be the main thing that you want to look for, so at least at that point, you could very well go with at least Lufel. If you have Shun, he's very helpful for this as well, seeing that he actually takes down defense, while also can use a taunt with his actual abilities. And then let's say you just need an extra defender. Yuki, although she isn't the best, especially on tier list all around here, she still can give him a single target defense buff here, which can be very, very helpful if you just need mainly our man Joker to survive. First team is really flexible because once again, all you really need is just a bunch of supporters and they make the world go round. So if you do have Rin, it's definitely going to make everything a lot easier. All in all, this is actually going to be the real team for Global Curse team, and it would be the next best team if you guys are looking for a really good team to start off with. For the Navigator, if you are having some sustainability issues, you can go ahead and use Puppet as always, seeing she really does come in clutch with everything else in nature, or at least in natural just type battle. Now I know what you're thinking. Some of you guys are saying, Blade, what if we just don't have majority of those team comps? What can we do? Well, the good part that you can do, especially when it comes down to at least these teams, those were just the best teams that you could make on Global. there is always going to be a point in time where you're going to have to shuffle through some characters, or either you just might not have the completed teams. So what do you do in this aspect? Well, as I did say already and hinted at throughout the video here, as long as you have a DPSer, at least a sustainer someplace around here, and maybe a buffer or a debuffer, your time should be pretty darn decent. Though if you don't have an actual proper team, I would definitely highly recommend you guys getting Puppet. Now, Puppet can be gained whether you just decide to summon a little bit. I think you actually can get her for free as well through one of the connection things as well. And then you can also get her from a $1 pack as well out of the shop. I wouldn't advise going for that, but it will be at least an option. Puppet, I would like to say, is every man's favorite character to go ahead and use, because at that point in time, you don't have to use a true whole team as long as you have the right classifications. As I mean by classifications, DPS, sustainability character where it's a defender or healer, and a debuffer or a buffer. Either way does help here. It will definitely keep you afloat. So for example, if we go ahead and take some of these characters on out here. So let's go ahead and move all of them here, move them all down. If I happen to have Morgana more as my DPS, or at least Morgana in general on my actual account, well, at this point in time, I'm only missing at least a DPS and maybe a good old buffer. What I would end up doing is probably, let's say if I really have to and I only have at least our man Skull, pop in Skull as our DPSer, and then we can very well say we need a little bit of actual buffing, seeing of course Skull does need that for his big boy damage, use Leon. Or if Leon isn't cutting it and you do not have this 4-star, you very well could throw someone else in who's just as useful. Sometimes if I need a little bit of debuffing, he could be used. I wouldn't fully advise it, seeing he isn't best without being on the fire team, but still he is at least an option. So you guys kind of see what I mean. As long as you have the classifications needed, pretty much most of these teams can just work depending on at least what you have. But that's just mainly the way how I can see it, and as well as how I've been getting through the game on multiple alts as well. But those are all the teams that I'm going to be going over. As I did say, the top 3 teams that you guys definitely want to use is the Global Fire team, Global Wind team, and the Global Curse team here. Those are going to be your best ones to actually go for. I root for the Fire team the most here, but if you're anything like most people and you really want to go ahead and utilize your man Joker, this will be the team for you. But till then, everybody, thank y'all for watching the video, and I'll see you guys later. Peace out.